I'm a country guy. I like being near the city just to have, access to, fun things and be able to do stuff with the family and everything. But like, I'm a country guy.
Do you have kids?
Almost.
You having one?
She's pregnant now. Yeah. Okay. So we'll be, November. I
wrote a book called Hands on Parenting.
Oh.
And I'm a self-appointed expert in early childhood development.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I can send you tons of links. And there's a program in Chestnut Hill called the Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential. And they have a 1-week course. For newborns, they have a 2 half-a-day course. They do it every 4 or 5 months. But I'll send you all that information.
I would love that. I'll definitely give you my email address after this to send stuff, because I feel like I'm going to just dive into everything you send me. And especially with the children things, that my wife will definitely be like, she wants to dig into everything. We were thinking about doing some homeschooling to start, maybe even around 3rd grade. Then we'll put them into a school, because I don't want them not to be socially acclimated. And I think that school value, there's a value in that.
There's also a website called greatschools.org. I'll send you all this.
Yeah.
And you can find out what the schools in your area are and what their statistics are.
Yeah.
We have the statistics on every elementary school in all the counties in the region.
Okay.
And all the state capitals. You don't want to know what they are.
I can imagine, right?
It's horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, the public school system didn't treat me well. I got pushed around, I think, a little bit. Classrooms had like 30 kids in them. You don't get really good individualized education that way.
Yep.
So that's why I'm thinking, okay, I want my kid to have a little bit of a better step forward going in before like what my experience was. My parents, they didn't have a choice. They just had to,
I understand.
Yeah. So that's
Well, you got the right guy.
What's that?
You got the right guy.
Yes. yeah, definitely the right guy for sure. I'm looking forward to being a dad,
Nothing better.
Yeah. I know I'm getting a lot of people where like, oh, your life is over at this point. I'm like, actually, I feel like this is the next awesome chapter that's about to begin. So,
yeah.
And how many, do you have kids?
I have one kid.
You have one kid.
One 3-year-old grandson. And I've, I do something called Rolfing, which you've never heard of. It's a very highly specialized form of mind-body life transformation.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of the heart of Team Children.
Okay.
And I'm pioneering the field of Rolfing babies and children. So I like to start as early as I can. So today, and it's the initial series is a series of 10 sessions. And I did a little, I guess she's 3 months old now.
Yeah.
She had session 8.
Oh.
And it's like chilled out.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to get into a conversation with you about Team Children here. We're going to get into a really interesting conversation today, because we're talking to Robert Toporek.
Right.
He is the founder of Team Children.
Yes.
Okay. And not only is he the founder of this, but he was actually in the Vietnam War. Yeah. So we're going to have a conversation here. And Robert, thank you for being on the show.
Not a problem.
Absolutely.
Glad to.
And Team Children is one of those programs that I'm really excited to get out there for our audience. Could you tell us a little bit about Team Children?
Well, as I was mentioning to you before, I like to say my real job in life is doing something called Rolfing, which is a very highly specialized form of mind-body life transformation. There are only about 2,000 practitioners in the world.
Wow.
And I studied directly with the founder, Dr. Rolf, the last 4 years of her life. And I wanted her to teach me how to Rolf babies and children, but she wasn't interested in that.
Oh,
and she has a recipe for the 10 sessions. She said, do the recipe. I said, oh, come on, it's got to be harder than that.
Yeah.
Do the recipe. And then we put together, in 1978, a project to demonstrate, document, and promote the benefits of Rolfing for babies and children. And so I've been doing that since forever, and I've worked with over 300 whole families as young as day one and as deep as 4 generations.
Wow.
And as I was mentioning to you, and then in the course of doing that, I found out about a program in Chestnut Hill called the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential, in which they have a 1-week course called How to Give Your Baby Encyclopedic Knowledge. So we did all that with my son, and by the time he was maybe 2.5, he was reading 1,000 words, counting to 100 in English and Spanish. I videotaped all this. So
Wow.
And then by the time he was maybe 3, he could. He was proficient on a computer.
Wow.
And there were games like Read a Rabbit, Math Rabbit, and stuff like that. And, like they give you 3 words, what word fits here, and he could figure out the word, and then he could type it on the keyboard.
That's
so
amazing.
I got fascinated by that. And then a lot of my clients, I gave them the whole idea of having their babies rolfed, taking that course. There's another course called Landmark Education, which is very transformational. It gets to have people let go of the past and open up new possibilities. And so I've done that with maybe a couple hundred families.
Wow.
And most of those children are turning out to be pretty extraordinary.
That's
and
amazing.
Then, but I was working on, I'm going to say this in the worst possible way, mostly white and wealthy people. Because rolfing is somewhat of an expensive adventure. So I wanted to work on babies and children with women addicted to crack and cocaine.
Yeah.
And at the time, it still is, but it's just not talked about that much. So I was failing to get into any hospitals. And I decided to take my rolfing table to one of the worst neighborhoods in Philadelphia at the time. It was called the Badlands in North Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Now eliminated as the Badlands, but still not the greatest place in the world to go.
Oh, yeah.
And I set up my table on the sidewalk, and I actually found last night the first videotape of the first time we were there.
Oh,
pretty
wow.
Awesome. And one thing led to another, and I started going into people. The place was filthy dirty, first of all.
Yeah.
And there was a graveyard there. There was a block long and a block wide, and it was overgrown, and drug dealers and drug addicts were actually living there.
Wow.
And I said, why don't you do something? And they said, it's not ours. It's your neighborhood.
You're right.
So anyway, I got some people to donate. From a company in West Virginia donated slings and rakes and all that stuff, and we started cutting it down. And then we found out that it was owned by the Quakers, and it was illegal to own a graveyard and not keep it up. And then I started going to people's houses, and I realized there were no books. I go to your house, there's lots of books. Go to my house, there's lots of books.
Yeah.
But a lot of these houses, there were no books. And I realized that the kids in that neighborhood were not going to go where my son was going.
Yeah.
And I'm just a regular guy doing, extraordinary things. So,
Yeah.
And I believe that any kid can be extraordinary if their parents will do extraordinary things for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's called extraordinary.
Yeah.
And so I came up with this brilliant idea that I was going to distribute computers to every family. And I only wanted to do this one neighborhood, my target neighborhood in this lifetime. If I could impact the people in one neighborhood, that would be a life worth living.
Absolutely.
And besides all the other stuff I've done, which is also pretty awesome. And so I started taking computers and bringing them out there and setting them up on the sidewalk.
Wow.
And then one thing led to another. And a lot of my rolfing clients at the time were in the world of computers. One of them worked for QVC, and he started getting QVC to donate computers.
Wow.
And we started refurbishing them, and then we started collecting software. And at one point, we had distributed over 50 computers to families in that neighborhood.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. And then I had some personal issues. My son's mother had a very bad case of cancer, and she started dying, and I had to put it on hold.
Sorry.
And after she passed away, I come up with these brilliant ideas. Most people, a normal person would come up with an idea. They'd create a budget. They'd create a funding. I just do it by the seat of my pants. Sort of like, I know why I go back to Vietnam for a second.
Oh, yes.
So I stayed in Vietnam for 2 years. The second year I stayed, I lucked out, and I ended up being the non-commissioned officer in charge of our battalion civil affairs program. So I had a team of wounded soldiers, 2 wounded to go to the field, but not wounded enough to go home.
Right.
And our job was to pacify the village around us so the Viet Cong didn't infiltrate the village and attack our base camp.
Wow.
And there was no budget, there was no plan,
Yeah.
there was no funding,
Wow.
and we had a beg, borrow, and steal everything that we could.
Wow.
And we ended up somehow building a couple schools. We built a playground. We built a health center. I got 2 Army doctors and a nurse to come out at least once a week.
Yeah.
And we built a Boy Scout lodge. And we were taking people to the dentist once a week, Army volunteers. So I'm kind of like used to doing everything by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
I'm now getting too old to keep doing that. So we're working on creating a plan to fund the future.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I did Ninth in Indiana. That's how I've done everything. And then, so after my ex-wife passed away, I had some computers left, and I said, I think I'm going to expand this to everybody. We outside of Ninth in Indiana.
Yeah.
And so the plan was to only distribute 2,000 computers by the year 2000. And so one thing led to another. I started making flyers. I said I needed a building. And so I made 40 phone calls. I only got one yes. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
And that one yes was a guy named, can't remember, Ed Brooks from Broden Brooks Realty, and he had a warehouse in Jeffersonville. Never met the guy before in my life.
Yeah.
He said, I think I've got a place for you. And I met him down there. He opened up the door. I said, this would be great. Had a loading dock and everything. I shook his hand, and he gave me the place for a year.
Wow.
And one thing led to another. We started getting volunteers, news stories, and by the year 2000, we distributed over 2,000 computers.
That's amazing. Wow.
It gets better.
Yeah.
And now I've been doing this for over 20 years, and we've distributed over 25,000 refurbished computers.
Jeez.
Families, schools, organizations, veterans, and anyone in need.
So you've been consistently giving away thousands of computers.
We don't give
a
them
year.
away. We charge an administrative fee.
Okay.
Because when you give something to somebody, they don't have a value.
True.
Even if you charge somebody $5, there's a value to it.
Yeah.
If you give it away, there's no value to it. I came up with the idea that we would charge it. And since we didn't have any funding, I had to come up with some plan to generate income.
Yeah.
And so we've done that, and we've had over 500 teenagers that I've mentored over the years.
Wow.
We've probably distributed laptops or computers to maybe 50 veterans. I'm always looking for more veterans to do that.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for more companies to donate laptops. We're only doing laptops now.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, we teach youth how to give back to the community, which I think is really important.
Very, very.
So we give them the opportunity to learn how to lead and communicate and take out the trash, clean the bathroom, everything that you have to do to run a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been doing for, I don't know, over 20. And I'm still Rolfing babies and children.
Yeah.
And I'm still pioneering that idea.
Now, when you say Rolfing, just in case the audience doesn't quite understand what that means.
It's a technique where there's a series of 10 sessions. Each session works on a different part of your body. Like chiropractors work on your skeletal system, massage therapists work on your muscles, Rolfers work on what's called the fascial system, the connective tissue throughout your body. So throughout our whole body is connected through connective tissue.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Rolf discovered that by using our hands, we can alter those patterns of tension in a person's body, which then allows them to stand up straighter, have more flexibility, let go of old patterns of trauma and tension, and have a new relationship to their body and their lives.
That's fantastic. There's so much that I say, especially in the Philadelphia area, so much attention that needs to be spent on that, on understanding your personality, your body, being in good mental health shape, because I feel like there's a lot of emotionally unstable people. We're all emotionally unstable, and I've worked on a few veterans, not very many, but I'm pretty clear, and I've had lots of body work. So body work, as a Vietnam veteran, I accumulated tons of trauma and tension that I didn't even know I had. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until recently that I discovered what survivor's guilt was. Oh, wow. Okay.
So one time there was a mission we were on, and I was supposed to be the point man, and somebody else this kind of affects everything that I do. And a guy was arguing with me saying that he was going to go first, but he only had 45 days left. And I said, I'm arguing with him. And somebody behind me says, I outrank you, I'm going first. I don't even know who it was.
Yeah.
Didn't even remember him ever being in our squad. And as he walked up he went first, Beauchamp went next. My buddy Short was after that, and I was after Short. And we might even been staggered, I'm not sure. But as Zoinks turned the corner in the trail, he got shot, and the jungle erupted, was called July 4th on steroids.
Oh, wow.
We all got to cover. Zoinks yelled out something. I don't even remember what he yelled. Something like help or something. And Beauchamp yelled back to Short, cover me, I'm going to go get him. And by the time Short said don't, Beauchamp was dead.
Oh, wow.
And then that guy who's shooting at them, a bullet hit the tree behind me, and I realized had I been dealing differently, I'd be dead.
Wow.
And then Short said, let's get, that guy got on the trail. I emptied my gun on him. I did not go and check his pulse, but I was pretty sure I killed him.
Yeah.
And I started feeling guilty about that. And then Short said, let's get out of here. In that moment, I had to make that decision. Do we leave them out here? One of the Cardinals' rules of war is never leave anybody behind.
Yeah.
But there was no way that we were going to be able to get them and get out. And so we had to leave them there overnight.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And we never talked about it again.
Yeah.
Until I met Short about 50 years later.
Wow.
He's the first person I ever talked to about it.
Wow.
And so as we were talking, I thought Beauchamp went first. Could have sworn it did. Because I completely wiped out the whole part about Zoinks.
Yeah.
And that's called survivor's guilt. You just wipe out reality. And so I led a unreal life.
Yeah.
But I've had lots of body work and body work. I think at some point it would be great for everybody, but particularly for veterans, because there's so much trauma that goes into being in the service.
Yes. Definitely.
Even if you're not in war.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, PTSD forms in a lot of ways, and even if you're not a veteran, there's things that happen. Like there's like finding a body, and that's traumatizing by itself.
It is.
It sits with you, and some things like that can just you may not even understand that it's affected you in any way, but it just keeps coming up. And that's somewhat a part of this. Like, I want to make sure people understand that these things aren't things that you should just like let lay. You get some help, talk to people. There's other veterans out here that are dealing with things. Let's all talk about these things,
Well, I started, as I was mentioning to you before, the first African-American to get the Medal of Honor in the Vietnam War was a guy, Milton Olive. And you were asking me something about growing up in South Carolina.
Yes.
So I grew up in a segregated world in South Carolina. And my parents had a grocery store in a predominantly black neighborhood. And I used to work there. And we worked alongside black folks, but we didn't go to the movies. We didn't invite them over. And we didn't take them to lunch.
Right.
And Milton was born in Lexington, Mississippi, and he had the black version of that.
Yeah.
And his mother died in childbirth, so he was really being raised by his grandmother. And we ended up, the way I tell the story is, I didn't talk about it for about 25 years.
Yeah.
And I finally called his father. Somehow I tracked him down in Chicago, and he told me about a park named after him and a playground named after him. I said,
"Oh, wow.
He's making a bigger difference dead than I am alive."
Oh, wow.
That was part of my motivation to do Ninth in Indiana. Is like, what am I doing to make a big difference? So, and then I promised him I was going to make it a national story. I'm still working on doing that, but I put together an ebook about it. But and one part of the story is that we about the same age. He died 10 days before his 19th birthday.
Oh, wow, 19.
And I was almost 19. I was about 18 and a half. And the way I tell it is the Army, in its infinite wisdom, put that black boy and this white boy in a tent together, and they made one fatal mistake. They forgot to send a counselor. So we kept provoking each other. And then one day he said, let's go find out who the real man is.
Yeah.
So after the fight, he had beat the white out of me. I beat the black out of him. The only thing left were men whose lives depend on each other. And pretty much racism had disappeared from our unit after that. And then about a month later, we were on a mission. And he ended up, I wasn't there at the moment he did it, but he jumped on a hand grenade, blew his guts out, and saved 4 other people.
Wow.
He didn't look around and say, let's see, is that one a white? Is that one,
right?
You know, do I like this one or not?
Yeah.
He just sacrificed his life to do that. And I mean, he had to know that he wasn't going to make it, you know.
No, yeah.
And when I got back over there to him, I was looking at him, and somebody said, don't look at him, put him on a poncho, and let's carry him out of here.
Yeah.
So we did, and it took me 50 years to find the other person who was on the side of that poncho.
Oh, wow.
So, because I kind of blanked that out, and you know, we just sucked it up and dropped him off at the helicopter to be taken home, and sucked it up and moved on.
Yeah.
And nobody talked about it. And there were all those incidents of other things that happened, other people that got killed.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about it.
Wow. What a history.
Except,
Yeah.
interesting, I just put together a preliminary ebook called Letters from Vietnam.
Yes.
So my sister had collected all these letters that I had written to my parents from Vietnam. And somehow I carried them around, moved them around, blah, blah. And one time I started reading one, and then I had to put it down. And recently I just got committed to putting it into an ebook, and I read a lot of those letters.
Yeah.
I didn't specifically talk about what happened, but I in general talked about what happened.
Wow.
They're great letters. So
Yeah.
and some of the stuff that I wrote in those letters, I've completely forgotten.
Wow. Yeah. Time is it'll take it away from you. You know, thank you so much for that. It's important for people to understand other people's journeys. And it's another reason why I start this podcast off by saying, humans, because it's important to know that we're all human beings on this planet together, creating something, moving forward with life, helping each other out, like being part of the family,
If you get above the planet and look down, you'll see that humanity is just one body.
One body,
and
yes.
We're all little cells
Absolutely.
Of a bigger thing.
Bigger organism out there,
So
yeah.
you affect me, I affect you, we affect everybody.
Absolutely.
This conversation, we have no idea who it's going to impact.
No, absolutely.
Right.
And which is why I'm grateful to have the platform to be able to communicate this type of thing out there too. And, that's...
I have another great story for you.
Oh, please go for it. Yes.
I'm very possibly the only Vietnam veteran that paid for his own flight back to Vietnam.
Oh, really? Back to Vietnam.
Back to Vietnam.
Yeah.
So after I extended for 6 months and I ran this village, I fell in love with what I was doing, and I wanted to continue doing it. And I knew that if I extended for another 6 months, it would give me 30 days leave. So I took the 30 days leave and went back to Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And I spent most of my time trying to find my old girlfriend, which didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
And collecting stuff to take to the village.
Right.
And I ran out of time to find somebody to send it back and all that other stuff. I found people that wanted to donate stuff. And so I'd run out of time, and my congressman was chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, and he used to go to the Citadel, and he would be at their parades on Fridays. So I went there and I introduced myself. I told him my problem. I said, I've run out of time. I don't know what to do. He said, I'll get in touch with the U.S. Army. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember getting back to Oakland and them saying, "You're AWOL. We're not paying for your flight. You got to pay for your own flight."
Wow.
So I still have the ticket.
Oh, wow.
And I have those letters from the Army that says, "Sorry, buddy, we'd love to help you, but you're AWOL. We added 13 days to your tour of duty.
Oh, man.
You better get your butt back to Vietnam."
Wow. So you flew back for 13 days.
Commercial flight from Oakland to Tokyo, and from Tokyo to Saigon.
Wow. Well, Saigon, now they call it Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah.
Right.
So interesting. Wow. What a history. Thank you.
The only person
that we know of in history that had to do that. And so you flew back for, you said 13 days?
I was 13 days over AWOL.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. So, so 13 days over AWOL, and then you had to go back. So how long did you have to stay there once you got back?
Well, I stayed another 6 months.
Oh, I see.
And then
Okay.
before I got out of the Army, they added 13 days to my tour.
Oh, I got you. I see. Yes.
So I spent 3 years and 13 days technically
in the service.
in the
there.
Army.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. What a history. What a history. Thank you for that. That's great. I know our audience loves to engage and hear stories like this, and I'm sure it helps people to understand their own situations as well, and like be able to take something from that. So thank you so much for that. I see you have a shirt. Your shirt here says Vietnam veteran, May 1965,
Yeah.
173rd Airborne Brigade.
That's right.
Yeah, that was your crew.
So when I joined the Army, I actually wanted to be in the Special Forces. And I was 17. I quit high school. I'll tell you that in a second. And the recruiter said, no problem. So sign here, get your parents to sign. My parents had to sign because I was underage.
Yeah.
And I did. And he forgot to tell me two little important things. One, that I had to get a high school diploma. And the second, I was going to have to jump out of airplanes.
Oh, wow.
Here's the problem. I'd never been in an airplane.
Never, ever.
And that's probably one of the least known facts about the Vietnam War. There are a lot of young people, probably from the South. Maybe, I don't know, but I know some of my buddies are from the South. None of us had ever been in an airplane when we went to jump school.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And so my first 5 flights, I didn't land. I jumped out of them. I still hate landing.
That's unique.
I would rather jump out.
That's funny. I joined in Raleigh, North Carolina. They wanted me to come back to be a parachute rigger. I also had never been on an airplane at that point. And so it was like, that just didn't seem attractive to me. Like jumping out or setting a pack for someone else, like that just felt like that's not my mission. I always grew up around cars. My dad had a 67 Buick Skylark that we kept restoring, so I was always into engines. And then when I went to school, I went to a vocational school, so I came out with a certificate in electronics. So my first thing going into the military was, I want to be a generator mechanic. I can work on the engines, and I got the electronics behind me. I can read a schematic. So that was my push in. And one of the things that I always like, I try to say this to the audience, like, be the best at whatever it is that you do. Because when I was in there, I was as good as I could be. And I even had colonels calling me General Electric. I would come in with my little calculator and say, there's too much on this load. You guys got to get rid of that coffee maker. There's no reason for it to be here. And they were like, all right, General Electric, let's get it done so the power can stay on. So definitely do the best that you can do with whatever your endeavor is, for sure.
Great.
Yeah. I want to get into the computers.
Okay.
All right.
One more story.
Oh, yeah. Please.
So back to the high school diploma.
Oh, yes.
So I knew it was important, and I have these letters, and I'm talking all through these letters. I'm talking to my mother about taking my GED. Problem is, they don't give GED tests in war zones.
Oh, no. Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Certainly back then.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, everybody in our company that had not graduated high school was given the opportunity to take the GED. And so I took it, and for 50 years, I thought I had my GED.
Yeah.
But I found the paperwork about a year or so ago, and I read it and it said, this is not your GED. This is just verification that you passed the test. To get your certificate, you have to go through your State Department of Education.
Oh.
So I made some attempts and I failed, but the bottom line is I finally have my GED diploma.
Oh, wow.
So that solves that problem. Now,
That's awesome.
back to the computers. And so I've always been passionate about education, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Even though I did not do the formal route of education, I'm a voracious reader. I'm on computers all the time, and I'm passionate about giving out computers to people. So I did this program in Chestnut Hill called How to Multiply Your Baby's Intelligence, and I rolfed my son when he was a baby.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it makes a significant difference in their neurological development, neuromuscular development. And then we added all these other things that increased his intelligence. And by the time he was maybe 2.5, he was proficient on a computer. And there were programs called Reader Rabbit, Math Rabbit, Language Express. And so he knew most 2.5, 3-year-olds don't know the alphabet.
Yeah.
And they don't know a keyboard. He was proficient on the keyboard, and he was proficient on the computer.
That's awesome.
So, and then there are tons of other programs out there. There's a guy in China who produced 3 modules of learning programs, of vocabulary and encyclopedic knowledge. So the world exists in language.
Yeah.
The more language you have, the more world you have. So this is a program that gives kids access to as many words as they want to learn and as big a world as they can imagine.
Wow.
And then there's a math program, and it's based on real math, not symbolic math. So the way I explain it is the word 3 and the number 3 is not really 3. That's 3 things. 1, 2, 3. Kids that don't have in their brain 1, 2, 3 don't do well with symbolic math. And so this program helps kids with real math, and it's all based on dots and sort of pieces of information.
Wow.
And then there's a whole music module, and that we put on there. And then we have links to something called Fact Monster, which most people don't know exists.
Fact Monster?
FACT.
Oh.
And anybody can learn anything they want just on that one website that's free online.
Wow.
I didn't know it. Somebody taught me. And then there's another program called Khan Academy, which deals with learning modules. Anybody can learn. Get a PhD on that.
Really?
Khan Academy, yes.
Huh.
And then we put together some links, learning links on every computer. And what else do we have on there? We have a thing called Bit World, which is bits of information where you can do it in 5 different languages. And you can teach kids about primates or skeletons or colors or fruits or just 10, I think it's 10 or 15 different things that you can teach them. It's about 150 words on the whole thing. And you can do it in English and Spanish.
Huh. Wow.
So that's just one thing. And then you've got this whole AI thing coming along.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm beginning to learn, even though I'm 77, it's like if you either use it or lose it.
Yes.
If you're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
So I'm just beginning to learn how to use it to write and stuff like that. And it's just important that everybody have access to this technology. And there are still millions of people that don't have access to it.
A lot of people are getting left behind because of it. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for that. For even having the wherewithal to put that out there for people, especially, and
especially, I just helped 2 veterans. One has 5 grandchildren living at his home.
Wow.
I forgot what happened to his family, but somehow or another, his son moved in, and he have a bunch of grandchildren, and he spilled coffee on his laptop, so they had no laptop.
Oh, wow.
Another veteran, I met him at the Vietnam Memorial, and he was wearing a 173rd shirt, and I talked to him and found out that he was in the same battle on the same day that I was.
Oh, wow.
And we never talked to each other.
Wow.
And he was doing everything on his phone because his computer didn't work anymore.
Oh, wow.
So we actually gave him one. We charged veterans $100, and then we'll ship it anywhere in the country for another extra $35.
That's respectful. Yeah. Are they mostly PCs, or are they also
all
Macs?
PCs?
All PCs.
We don't do very many Macs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So I feel like you've already said this, but just to isolate this a bit, why did you decide this was your mission to do this for kids? Why did
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because I think I have the answer. So when I was in Vietnam, this I look back, and when we used to take garbage to the garbage dump, before we got through the gates, kids would crawl on the truck and eat garbage out of the truck.
Oh, wow.
That's still embedded in my brain. I can still picture it today. And then the second year when I was working in the village, I was just inspired by how the kids were taking care of each other. lots of orphanages and a lot of kids that didn't have families, and so the kids would take care of themselves. And so I don't know. I've just always been enamored by the resiliency of childhood and how important it is to make a difference early on.
Yeah.
And God blessed me with the opportunity to do that. And so not working around questioning. There are days where like, should I just keep doing this? Like, we don't have any money. We can't pay the rent. The phone's getting turned off.
Yeah.
What can we do? And then I have to scrap it together and keep it going.
Yeah.
And it's just really gratifying that we were in a big 8,000 square foot building, and the landlord sold the building and gave us 90 days to move out. We only had $5,000 in the bank, and we had about 400 or 500 laptops. I put the word out in the universe, and we somebody a nonprofit from North Carolina bought like $36,000 worth.
Oh wow!
Another friend of ours, we had helped his son. His son had volunteered, and his son got roughed and did all the other things that I wanted him to do. So he has always been enamored by what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he said he was trying to get us a grant, and he got us a grant for $22,000.
That's awesome.
And then there was a woman that got, I put the word out on Facebook and LinkedIn, and there was a woman that got in touch with me. She said, me and my sister got a computer from you when we were teenagers, and we went to college on those computers.
Wow.
I'll help you set up a GoFundMe site.
Doesn't that feel so good?
It's incredible.
Yeah, like you put this out here, you don't really always see the return,
Almost never.
No. So when you get that back, when you get that feedback back, and I think the longer the further away it was, like 10, 20 years, and then you get that it's even more powerful.
The first family at 9th and Indiana, I'm still friends with.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Their son, Ivan, because the neighborhood was so violent, it wasn't safe for him to be out. First of all, there was no playgrounds. We built a playground there, ultimately. Yeah. City tore it down. There's no playground there now. But he would stay in the house and play on the computer with the same programs I had for my son.
Oh, wow.
He 6 kids. He's the only one to graduate high school and graduate college.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Now, his nieces and nephews are growing up, graduating high school and going to college.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's amazing.
In one neighborhood.
Yeah.
One block. One family.
Dang.
So if we're going to make a difference, we got to do it one neighborhood, one block, one family, one kid at a time.
That is true.
And, when you have the opportunity to do that, you don't, pass it up.
Yeah, no, honestly. I mean, I think there should be more humans like you that think.
I'm trying to clone myself.
Yeah. but that think like this, that see the need and the service, and I think that's something else that's about that's unique to veterans in that way, because we've served, but afterwards we still feel the necessity to continue to serve in some way. Yeah. Let's get into really quickly Vetfest. Because
yes.
You're one of the vendors at Vetfest this year.
That's right.
Vetfest is in September this year. We try to keep it inside of the September timeframe. What attracted you to Vetfest?
Well, I have 500 laptops sitting in my office right now.
Nice. Wow.
They could go to somebody, a veteran.
Yeah.
And then I published this ebook on Milton Olive, and I would love to get that distributed and raise money to make it a national story. And so I just see it as an opportunity to put all my balls of wax together and put them out in the universe. And maybe we've never had a corporate sponsor, so I don't know who will come to the Vest, find out about our story and say, hey, we want to support you financially, because that would be a big deal.
Yeah.
And because I'm not getting any younger, and somebody else can take it over. It doesn't take a genius. I'm not a genius, so it doesn't take a genius to do this sort of thing. It
right.
takes somebody with the right heart and passion. And so I see it as an opportunity. And I didn't really claim to be a Vietnam veteran until recently. So it's only, I never joined the VFW. I never joined the American Legion. I'm now a member of both.
Yeah.
And I go to veterans things from time to time. And so I'm wearing this T-shirt now. And when we came back from Vietnam, the joke is that nobody bought us a drink. And we took our clothes off and pretended that we didn't go. So it wasn't one of those, hey, welcome home, glad thank you for your service.
Right,
It was
right.
and we came back at I came back in 77, which was the beginning, the height of the anti-war demonstrators.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like people were not all that gung-ho on, hey.
Yeah. Especially with Vietnam, they really targeted that for...
Vietnam was not the easiest war to be in or come back from.
Yeah.
So anyway, any opportunity to get the word out to veterans, and as I mentioned, I just finished a preliminary draft of my letters from Vietnam.
Yeah.
So I'll have a copy of that or some copies of that, and see if we can find a sponsor to make that a national story.
That's awesome.
I think some of the letters are just hilarious.
Yeah.
One of them is, I was reading it, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, when I come home, I'm probably going to have to eat alone. Because right now, we're eating like animals. As a matter of fact, it's so bad, I'm barking at the moon. I didn't even remember ever writing that. I think that's just a great story to share with the world. And, Vietnam everything wasn't totally horrible. And we had some good times. And then I didn't even realize that I'd seen Bob Hope and Hello Dolly and a couple of other USO shows.
Yeah.
And I didn't even remember it. And so when I read the letters, it's like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
I got David Merrick's autograph. I don't know what I did with it. But,
yeah.
And then in one of the letters I wrote, I said, Mom, I bought a parachute. Don't worry about it. If I can't sell it when I get home, I can, if they don't build a parachute place here, then I'll be able to, I bought it for 60. I think I can sell it for 100. So things like that. So
oh, wow.
The opportunity to share that story, share the Milton Olive story, share our Tech for Vets thing, and then hopefully by September I will have finished my book called A Great Vietnam War Story. And it's going to be a chronicle. I worked with a guy one time who captured Adolf Eichmann. Eichmann was a guy who was responsible for killing 6 million people. And one of the people that spent time with him made a documentary. And in the documentary, he told Eichmann, he said, I can't relate to the 6 million people you killed, but my sister and her children, I can. For that, I'd like to kill you myself, but I'm not going to. I'm going to bring you back to Israel, and that'll just stand trial. And I realized that when we talk about war and we talk about 58,000 people killed, that doesn't mean anything to you, does it? But if I tell you about Fogel getting blown up with our own mortar when he was only 17, or what happened to Beauchamp and Zoints, and the others, I think we lost 7 people that day. And then there's another guy so those are stories that I hopefully I'm going to live long enough to get told and pass on to another generation, because I think what we need to learn how to do is study peace and not war. And as best I know, there's no peace, there's no course on peace in any school.
Interesting. Interesting perspective. Yes.
So any opportunity I have to be out there with other veterans and share my story and get the word out for it. And I'm glad you guys are doing it. And I'll tell you how I found out about this place.
Okay.
My tech guy, so people come to me and they volunteer, they come to donate something, and they get enamored by what I'm doing, and they're not volunteering for 10 years. There's one guy, he set up all my servers. I couldn't set up a server to save my life, and he set up all of our images, and he does this and that. And he told me that there was these get-togethers at this place called Greencastle, and I should go someday. So I started coming, and I said, well, I'm definitely going to go.
Well, thank you definitely for being here. Vetfest keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. This would be the 3rd year that we've done it, and every year it's exponentially getting larger and larger. The amount of vendors that we have this year, maybe even triple what we had the first year.
We could get some more volunteers. We could get some more people donating laptops and whatever.
So Moving forward, what's the future of Team Children?
There's a theory that if you go to Head Start or preschool, that it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no really evidence of that.
Right.
And as I was mentioning to you, the educational statistics in this country are appalling.
Yeah.
And it's really scary, and especially when you break it down by race and economics.
Yeah.
And we're creating a whole nother level of segregation.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of the mission of Team Children is to poke a hole in that.
Yeah.
And have that as a major piece of what we're going to deal with as a nation, because our children are 100% of our future.
Yeah.
And if we're leaving them behind, which we're doing, we're going. Your kid's going to pay for that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And my grandson's going to pay for that. And my generation was supposed to leave the place better than we found it.
Absolutely right.
So far, the planet's burning up, the school system's going down the tubes, people can't buy houses, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, I was just in Tampa for a weekend. If you drive around Tampa, you don't see that. You see beautiful sunshine, lots of people, lots of cars, lots of stores. But underneath that is a decay of our culture. And somebody's got to do something about it, say something about it. And so hopefully Team Children can play a part in making that a priority.
Yeah.
And have some real plans for what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
That's
and
a beautiful
some
thing.
Accountability.
I would hope, especially with anything like that, that Team Children has some of the ability to affect more kids like that going into the future.
Oh, we've definitely. I've gotten letters from some of my teenagers. One kid just graduated Georgia Tech. He volunteered me through high school and partially through college. And now his brother volunteers with me.
Nice.
He graduated Georgia Tech. He started his first job making $150,000 a year.
Wow, nice. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, part of my job now is to get back in touch with my volunteers and ask them to pay it forward.
That's
So
it.
they haven't been doing that yet. But and I'm still a one-man band, and if anybody listening to this podcast wants to join the mission and help me administratively, public relations, marketing, Excel spreadsheets, any way you can, I'm interested. And we could theoretically expand Team Children into a worldwide program. So
I can see
it could be reproduced all over the country.
Yeah.
In Tampa, there's no place that's doing refurbished computers for people that can't afford to buy new ones.
Wow.
In Westchester, there's no place. In Pottstown, there's no place. We reach all of those areas. In Chester, during the pandemic, we must have put 500 computers into the city of Chester.
Wow.
Those are kids going to school, and they have access to technology that they do not have. Now, have I followed up with them? I have not yet, because I keeping the thing from singing, and I just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And then, looking back this summer, I hope to have enough time and money and wherewithal to be able to look back and document what we're doing. One of the other things I'm going to publish between now and the end of the summer, it's going to be called Letters from everybody that gets a computer from us writes a letter. And right at the moment, we're saying we like one-page letters.
Yeah.
I've gotten people that write me like volumes. And so I know more about the condition of people in this region than any nonprofit around.
Wow.
And so we're going to publish something called Letters from the Digital Divide.
That's awesome, man. I love this. Thank you for this. Thank you for doing this, for making this a part of your life, making this a mission in your life for others.
Other than that, I'd just be bored.
Yeah. So how can people find you online and support you?
We're on Facebook. We have a website called Team Children. I also wrote a book called Hands-On Parenting, and you can do that. Hopefully I'll give you all the links to this.
Yeah.
People can call me on the phone. We still
use phones.
We still have phones.
What they're used for. Yeah.
People can come by and interact with me directly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty out there.
Okay. Good. So you guys you just heard that. So make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to Team Children online on social media, Facebook,
LinkedIn, Instagram, and I think that we're on what's it called, TikTok.
Oh, a TikTok as well.
I'm beginning to post we videotape. We just produced a brilliant video. I have this guy who's doing videos for me. Just finished Temple.
Nice.
And we just put together a great video of our computer project where we talk about, we have people who have gotten computers, et cetera, et cetera. I'll send you a link to it.
Yeah.
It's online on YouTube. And we videotape a lot of the people, a lot of our volunteers, a lot of our recipients. We have great documentation on why we're doing it, what we're doing, how we're doing it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show. I can't wait to see you guys at Vetfest. Are you going to be there alone? You're going to have some people with you?
Hopefully I have somebody with me.
Yeah. We'll set you up in a nice little tent out there. Right. Yeah. So this is great. Thank you so much for your service, your continued service to humanity. You know, I mean, this is epic. When you think about, like you just said, children, they are the foundation of our future. And if we're not thinking about them, if we're not thinking about how to support them, then we're just wiping ourselves out of history.
When the guy who killed my two buddies, Zoints and Beauchamp, tried to kill me, and the bullet hit the tree behind me. At the time, I was somewhat agnostic. And I looked up and I said, I don't know who you are, but if I get out of here, I'm going to live a worthwhile life.
Yeah.
So I've had a blessed life for just an ordinary high school dropout. Yeah. And I've gotten the opportunity to meet some extraordinary people. It's been a blessed life, and everybody should have that blessing.
Yeah, for sure.
But you have to be up to something.
Yeah.
And if you're up to something, life will support you.
Yeah. That's great. Well, that's a great way to segue this out. Thank you so much for that. Robert Toporek, thank you so much. This is Team Children. All right. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, follow Team Children, and like and subscribe to Shots from the Winchester podcast as well. We put great content like this together for you every week. On behalf of Greencastle Consulting, your nation's premier strategy execution firm, I'm your host, Al Green.
I'm Robert Toporek, a Vietnam veteran and social entrepreneur.
And we'll see you in the next episode.